Good morning, everyone. It's 11:30 Eastern Time, and that means it is time for First Chapter Fun. This is the place where every day until the beginning of May, I read the first chapter of a different book on Instagram Live and on Facebook Live. And Jennifer and Katie have already joined down on Instagram. That's wonderful. Very pleased to see you. How was your weekend? I'm going to wave to you both. There we go. Hope you had a good weekend. Hi Nancy, up on Instagram. Lovely to see you. And Remo, a friend from school from many years ago in Switzerland. Hi, all the way from Switzerland watching. That's lovely. And Kendra too. Good morning, Carla. So for those of you who have not joined an episode of First Chapter Fun before, this is the place where I read the first chapter of a new book every day at 11:30 Eastern Time. Good morning, Hank Philippi Ryan. Regularly joins almost daily at 11:30, which is absolutely wonderful. And Sharon Doering, whose book I read, She Lies Close, just last week, and Amanda as well. So lovely to see so many of you again today. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope the Easter Bunny was generous to you. Hi Kaylee, she's sending me lots of hearts, and Kate Rock up on Facebook. It's lovely. And also, if you celebrated Passover, I hope you had a happy Passover as well. And if you celebrated neither, I just hope you had a very jolly Sunday indeed. So today, let me tell you about the book I'm reading for you today, or reading from, I should say, because I'm not reading the whole thing, obviously. We'd be here all day, which might not be a bad thing, but this is what I'm reading for you today. Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, and I'm hoping that she will be joining us either on Facebook or on Instagram. Either way, as always, I save these videos if they're under 15 minutes to my feed on Instagram. If they are longer than 15 minutes, then it's on my Instagram story anyway, but I always save them to my Facebook author page, which is Hannah Mary McKinnon, and you can go back and watch all of the episodes if you like, because today is episode 28. And of course, please do leave comments, questions, whatever you like for Angie, either right now, because she'll be sure to see them later because I'm going to tag her and everything, or later if you wish, but that's always a lovely thing to do, because authors, for the most part, I have not yet met one who doesn't like engaging with their readers. So, I already have Kaylee saying, OMG, this book is so great. Excuse me. So let me show that to you again. This is Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. And I am going to read you now. Good morning, Sanika. I'm going to read you the Angie's bio. Let me tell you a little bit about Angie, who I met at BoucherCon last year. Angie Kim is the author of the national bestseller Miracle Creek, named a Best Book of the Year by Time, The Washington Post, Kirkus, Real Simple, Library Journal, The Today Show, Amazon, and Hudson Booksellers. So if they all said that it is a best book of the year, I mean, my goodness, you're not going to argue with them, are you? And it was named a Good Morning America Hot Summer Read. Angie, we'll do the less formal version. Angie is one of Variety magazine's 10 storytellers to watch, and has written for Vogue, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Glamour, Salon, and Slate. She moved from Seoul, Korea to Baltimore as a preteen and attended Stanford University and Harvard Law School, where she was an editor of the Harvard Law Review. Never ceases to amaze me, the backgrounds of authors. They're just such smart people. A former trial lawyer, she now lives in Northern Virginia with her husband and 3 sons, and is at work on her next novel. So, Natalie just said, this is legit on my night table to be started this week. Well, we'll get a head start in that case as I read you the first chapter of Miracle Creek. And Jennifer down on Instagram says it's so good and leads to great discussions. Fantastic. So, without further ado, I always say that, I'm going to have to change that. Without any more babbling from my part, I shall now read you the blurb and then go into chapter 1 of Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. How far will you go to protect your family? Will you keep their secrets? Ignore their lies? In a small town in Virginia, a group of people know each other because they're part of a special treatment centre, a hyperbaric chamber that may cure a range of conditions from infertility to autism. But then the chamber explodes, 2 people die, and it's clear the explosion wasn't an accident. A powerful showdown unfolds as the story moves across characters who are all maybe keeping secrets, hiding betrayals. Chapter by chapter, we shift alliances and gather evidence. Was it the careless mother of a patient? Was it the owners hoping to cash in on a big insurance payment and send their daughter to college? Could it have been a protester trying to prove the treatment isn't safe? So I shall now read the first chapter of Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, and this is an excerpt published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux, and of course, as always, read with their permission. So this is Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, Chapter 1. The Incident. Miracle Creek, Virginia, Tuesday, August 26th, 2008. My husband asked me to lie. Not a big lie. He probably didn't even consider it a lie, and neither did I at first. It was such a small thing, what he wanted. The police had just released the protesters, and while he stepped out to make sure they weren't coming back, I was to sit in his chair, cover for him, the way co-workers do as a matter of course, the way we ourselves used to at the grocery store, while I ate or he smoked. But as I took a seat, I bumped against the desk, and the certificate above it went slightly crooked, as if to remind me that this wasn't a regular business, and that there was a reason he'd never left me in charge before. Pack reached over me to straighten the frame, his eyes on the English lettering. Pack U, Miracle Submarine LLC, Certified Hyperbaric Technician. He said, eyes still on the certificate, as if talking to it, not me. Everything's done. The patients are sealed in. The oxygen's on. You just have to sit here. He looked at me. That's it. I looked over the controls, the unfamiliar knobs and switches for the chamber we'd painted baby blue and placed in this barn just last month. What if the patients buzz me? I said. I'll say you'll be right back, but no, they can't know I'm gone. If anyone asks, I'm here. I've been here the whole time. But if something goes wrong, and what could go wrong? Pack said, his voice forceful like a command. I'll be right back, and they won't buzz you. Nothing will happen. He walked away, as if that was the end of the matter. But at the doorway he looked back at me. Nothing will happen, he said again, softer. It sounded like a plea. As soon as the barn door banged shut, I wanted to scream that he was crazy to expect nothing to go wrong on this day, of all days, when so much had gone wrong. The protesters, the sabotage plan, the resulting power outage, the police. Did he think so much had already happened that nothing more could? But life doesn't work like that. Tragedies don't inoculate you against further tragedies, and misfortune doesn't get sprinkled out in fair proportions. Bad things get hurled at you in clumps and batches, unmanageable and messy. How could he not know that after everything we'd been through? From 8:02 to 8:14 p.m, I sat and said nothing, did nothing, like he asked. Sweat dampened my face, and I thought about the 6 patients sealed inside without air conditioning. The generator operated the pressurization, oxygen and intercom systems only, and thank God for the portable DVD player to keep the kids calm. I reminded myself to trust my husband, and I waited, checking the clock, the door, then the clock again, praying for him to return. He had to, before Barney ended and the patients buzzed for another DVD. Just as the show's closing song started, my phone rang. Pack. They're here. he whispered. "I need to stand watch. Make sure they don't try anything again. You need to turn off the oxygen when the session ends. You see the knob?" "Yes, but..." "Turn it counterclockwise all the way, tight. Set your alarm so you won't forget. 8:20 by the big clock." He hung up. I touched the knob marked oxygen, a discoloured brass, the colour of the squeaky faucet in our old apartment in Seoul. It surprised me how cool it felt. I synchronised my watch to the clock, set my alarm to 8:20 and found the alarm on button. Right then, just as I started pressing the tiny nub, that's when the DVD battery died, and I dropped my hands, startled. I think about that moment a lot. The deaths, the paralysis, the trial. Might all that have been averted if I'd pressed the button? It's strange, I know, that my mind keeps returning to this particular lapse, given my bigger, more blameworthy mistakes of that night. Perhaps it's precisely its smallness, its seeming insignificance, that gives it power and fuels the what-ifs. What if I hadn't let the DVD distract me? What if I'd moved my finger a microsecond more quickly, managed to turn on the alarm before the DVD died, mid-song? I love you, you love me, we're a happy family. The blankness of that moment, the categorical absence of sound, dense and oppressive, it pressed in, squeezed me from all sides. When the noise finally came, a rap, rap, rap of knuckles against the porthole from inside the chamber, I was almost relieved. But the knocking intensified into fists banging in threes, as if chanting, "Let me out!" in code, then into full-on pounding, and I realised it had to be TJ's headbanging. TJ, the autistic boy who adores Barney the purple dinosaur, who ran to meet me the first time when we met and hugged me tight. His mother had been amazed, said he never hugs anyone, he hates touching people, and maybe it's my shirt, the exact shade of purple as Barney. I've worn the shirt every day since. I hand wash it every night and put it on for his sessions, and every day he hugs me. Everyone thinks I'm being kind, but I'm really doing it for me, because I crave the way his arms wrap around and squeeze me, the way my daughters used to, before she started leaning away from my hugs, her arms limp. I love kissing his head, the fuzz of his red hair tickling my lips, and now that boy whose hugs I savour was beating his head on the steel wall. He wasn't crazy. His mother had explained that TJ has chronic pain from intestinal inflammation, but he can't talk, and when it gets too much, he does the only thing he can for relief. He bangs his head, using the new, acute pain to drive out the old one. It's like having an itch you can't stand and scratching so hard it bleeds. How good that pain feels, except multiplied by 100. Once, she told me, TJ put his face through a window. It tormented me, the thought of this 8-year-old boy in so much pain that he needed to bash his head against steel. And the sound of that pain, the pounding again and again, the persistence, the increasing insistence. Each thud set off vibrations that reverberated and built into something corporeal with form and mass. It travelled through me. I felt it rumble against my skin, jolting my insides and demanding my heart to match its rhythm, to beat faster, harder. I had to make it stop. That's my excuse for running out of the barn and leaving 6 people trapped in a sealed chamber. I wanted to depressurise and open it, get TJ out of there, but I didn't know how. Besides, when the intercom buzzed, TJ's mother begged me, or rather Pac, not to stop the dive. She'd calm him down, but please, for the love of God, put in new batteries and restart the Barney DVD now. There were batteries somewhere in our house next door, only a 20-second run away, and I had 5 minutes to turn off the oxygen, so I left. I covered my mouth to muffle my voice and said in a low, heavily accented voice like Pac's, "We will replace batteries. Wait a few minutes." Then I ran out. The door to our house was ajar, and I felt a flash of wild hope that Mary was home, cleaning up like I told her to, and finally something would go right today. But I stepped in and she wasn't there. I was alone, with no idea where the batteries were and no one to help. It was what I'd expected all along, yet that second of hope had been enough to shoot my expectations high into the sky and send them crashing down. Keep calm, I told myself, and started my search in the grey steel wardrobe we used for storage. Coats, manuals, cords, no batteries. When I slammed the door, the wardrobe wobbled, its flimsy metal warbling and booming like an echo of TJ's pounding. I pictured his head hammering steel, cracking open like a ripe watermelon. I shook my head to expel the thought. "Mejia!" I yelled out Mary's Korean name, which she hates. No answer. I knew there wouldn't be, but it infuriated me just the same. I yelled Mejia again, louder, elongating the syllables to let them grate my throat, needing it to hurt and drive out the phantom echoes of TJ's pounding ringing in my ears. I searched the rest of the house, box by box. With each passing second of not finding the batteries, my frustration grew, and I thought about our fight this morning, my telling her she should do more to help. She was 17, and her walking out without a word. I thought about Pac siding with her, as always. "We didn't give up everything and come to America so she could cook and clean," he always says. No, that's my job, I want to say, but I never do. I thought of Mary's eye rolls, her headphones on her ears, pretending not to hear me. Anything to keep my anger activated, to occupy my mind and keep out the pounding. My ire at my daughter was familiar and comfortable, like an old blanket. It soothed my panic into a dull anxiety. When I got to the box in Mary's sleeping corner, I forced the criss-cross top flaps open and dumped everything out. Teenage junk. Torn tickets to movies I'd never seen, pictures of friends I'd never met, a stack of notes, the top one in a hurried scrawl, "I waited for you, maybe tomorrow?" I wanted to scream, where were the batteries? And in the back of my mind, who'd written the note? A boy? Waited to do what? Just then, my phone rang, Pac again, and I saw 8:22 on the screen and remembered. The alarm, the oxygen. When I answered, I meant to explain how I hadn't turned off the oxygen but would soon, and that was no big deal. He sometimes ran the oxygen over an hour, right? But my words came out differently, like vomit, outpouring in one stream, uncontrollable. "Mary's nowhere," I said. "We're doing all this for her. She's never here, and I need her. I need help to find new DVD batteries before TJ busts his head open." "You always think the worst of her, and she's here helping me," he said. "And the batteries are under the house kitchen sink. But don't leave the patients. I'll send Mary to grab them. Mary, go, right now. Take 4D batteries to the barn. I'll come in 1 minute." I hung up. Sometimes it's better to say nothing. I ran to the kitchen sink. The batteries were there, like he said, in a bag I'd assumed was trash, under work gloves covered in dirt and soot. They were clean just yesterday. What had Pac been doing? I shook my head. The batteries. I had to hurry back to TJ. When I ran outside, an unfamiliar scent, like charred, wet wood, permeated the air and stung my nose. It was getting dark, harder to see, but I saw Pac in the distance, running toward the barn. Mary was ahead of him, sprinting. I called out, "Mary, slow down, I found the batteries." But she kept running, not toward the house, but to the barn. "Mary, stop," I said, but she didn't. She ran past the barn door to the back side. I didn't know why, but it scared me, her being there, and I called again, her Korean name this time, softer. "Mejia," I said, and ran to her. She turned. Something about her face stopped me. It seemed to glow somehow. An orange light coated her skin and shimmered as if she was standing directly in front of the setting sun. I wanted to touch her face and tell her, "You are beautiful." From her direction, I heard a noise. It sounded like crackling, but softer and muffled, the way a flock of geese might sound taking off for flight, hundreds of wings flapping at once to scamper skyward. I thought I saw them, a curtain of grey rippling in the wind and rising higher and higher in the dusky violet sky. But I blinked, and the sky was empty. I ran toward the sound, and I saw it then, what she'd seen but I hadn't, what she'd run toward. Flames. Smoke. The back wall of the barn on fire. I don't know why I didn't run or scream, why Mary didn't either. I wanted to, but I could only walk slowly, carefully, one step at a time, getting closer, my eyes transfixed by the flames in orange and red, fluttering, leaping, and switching places like partners in a step dance. When the boom sounded, my knees buckled and I fell. But I never took my eyes off my daughter. Every night, when I turn off the light and close my eyes for sleep, I see her, my Mehi, in that moment. Her body flings up like a rag doll and arcs through the air, gracefully, delicately. Just before she lands on the ground with a soft thud, I see her ponytail bouncing high, the way it used to when she was a little girl, jumping rope. That was a very emotional start to the wonderful novel that is Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. There, that's a bit better without the glare. So this is a much loved book, that's for sure, with many, many, many accolades. So I will, of course, post this and all of the links so you can find this book, but do go and check it out. It is incredible. Definitely one to put on your reading list if you have not read it yet. So for tomorrow, let me tell you about what I'm going to be reading tomorrow, or show you at least. It is Tell Me My Name by Erin Ruddy. That will be tomorrow's book, and this will be so intriguing. I mean, not that Angie Kim's isn't, but that was quite a long chapter, but Erin has a hell of a hooky chapter with just 2 pages, so do tune in because it's not one that you'll want to miss either. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of First Chapter Fun. As always, I'll see you again in the morning at 11:30 Eastern Time. So until then, as usual, you know what's coming. Stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.